Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I am your host, Nelson, and it is a little bit of a slow day for basketball because there weren't any big games that happened yesterday, so there wasn't really much or as much to talk about with playoff basketball that I haven't already talked about before. And so I'm waiting until the play-in games happen tonight before I start talking about the games that are going on now and the events that are going on now, because there's not really much stories being drawn from basketball, except for these ones that I have for you guys right now. So for the first segment, we're going to talk about Giannis and his deal with Adidas. He turned down his deal with Adidas, and you guys will figure out exactly what reason that is after this. And then in the second segment, we're going to talk about an interview that Kyrie Irving had and how he feels about being called things such as a, quote, chaos agent and a, quote, locker room cancer. And then in the third segment, we are going to be talking about Kawhi Leonard and if he's going to be available for the Clippers and what that means if he's not available for the Clippers after this coming game. And then we also have a special fourth segment, so I'll go ahead and reveal what that is. So in the fourth segment, I'm going to be giving my opinions on the 5 players who were wrongfully chosen for winning the MVP, and I'll back it up with stats and things of that nature, and that's going to be our special fourth segment. But before I begin, I'd like to remind everybody to please remember to use the link in the description to get your comments recognized or the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. Once again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. So once again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. And with that out of the way, we can go right ahead and talking about Giannis and his Adidas deal and sort of things and speculations and what's happening around there as why he turned it down, because it was supposed to be a shoe deal, and as we know, he signed with Nike rather quickly after rejecting his Adidas deal. And what was the reason why? Did he just not like Adidas? Did he just not like the shoes that he was going to be offered? Did he just want to go to a different shoe deal? Was it more money involved? What was going on? So Giannis, he's emerged as one of Nike's biggest stars, and he spent his entire NBA career with the brand developing his own signature shoe, but he did have original plans of signing with Adidas, and it's similar to the story on how Michael Jordan, in the beginning, he wanted to sign with Adidas as well, being in the beginning of his career. There was also Converse, because Converse was the most popular shoe at the time, but then his mother was like, no, you're signing with Nike, and look at what happened to him after signing with Nike. Now, on the Thanasis show, which is basically the podcast with Thanasis and Giannis, so he shared the story on how he decided to sign with Nike over signing with Adidas. He said that he originally met with an Adidas representative. He was promised that his brother, Thanasis, would also receive a contract. And when he met with the representative later, things changed. So it's kind of funny. The biggest reason why Giannis didn't sign with Adidas was because Adidas wasn't willing to sign with his brother. And Giannis said, quote, he brought the contract and put it in front of me, and I'm like, okay, great, where's my brothers? And Antetokounmpo said, and he was like, we're not going to sign your brothers today. You're going to sign yours, and then we're going to bring your brother in a week and sign his. And I was like, no, thank you. That's exactly what Giannis said. And he explained on the podcast that at the time, his family was in a place of need, and he was willing to accept a contract for just about anything, but if his brother wasn't a part of the picture, he didn't want to take it. So this was sort of like before Giannis got that big name of the Greek Freak, and before he even won the title, and before all of this even happened. So if you're looking at it from a business perspective, it somewhat makes sense, like, okay, wait a minute, why is it so important? And, like, if it means we need to sign 2 players, then given how Giannis's name wasn't as big as it is now, and it wasn't really like a custom for certain for big companies or organizations to sort of cater to these players, especially when they felt that the player didn't really deserve it at the time. And Giannis said, at the end of the day, if he had put in front of us some toilet paper and some cash next to it, we probably would have signed it because he knew we were in need. And at the time, we weren't able to take care of our family and in the best way. He knew our story. I think maybe the people who work above him tried to take advantage. And obviously, that would have rubbed anyone who was trying to get money and trying to get a shoe deal the wrong way. Like that, it just makes total sense that they would be rubbed the wrong way, because it's like, why can't you just sign? In his mind, he's like, why can't you just sign my brother? You know the things that we're going through, yet here you are standing here waving that over my head, and like you know that I'm in a really difficult position, and you know that I'm going to sign it, and it's just like, it could be seen as being taken advantage of in Giannis's perspective. And not only that, but I mean, we all know how Giannis feels about his brother, and we all know how, like, the relationship that they all have with each other. It's like, if you don't, like, especially with Giannis, and this sort of has given me new and different opinions on the decision making on whether or not Adrian Griffin was going to be the future head coach for the Bucks, and why he was removed. So there was rumors going around that Giannis was the reason as to why Adrian Griffin lost his job, because Adrian Griffin was seen talking down on Thanasis and Thanasis's game. And the alleged report was that Giannis didn't like that, and therefore caused him to get fired, and removing him from the head coaching position. And before, I thought it was like a joke, because obviously, like, removing a head coach for that specific reason, I thought it was just a little bit ridiculous. But after reading this article and just figuring out the reason why Giannis didn't pick Adidas to sign with, it's starting to make a lot more sense that that's sort of like that's the approach that he goes with. And it makes even more sense as to why Adrian Griffin lost the head coaching position and the head coaching role that he had, because I didn't think Giannis was involved in that, but now there's somewhat of a chance that, at least in my mind, that he was, because again, it's like, it's you and his brother. It's Giannis and Thanasis. It's not just Giannis. And if you do not realize that they are a package deal, he's not going with you. And that's both advantageous and that's also disadvantageous, because you could look at it from one end like, okay, all we have to do is give his brother some share of the money and everything, and you have Giannis. It's similar to LeBron's relationship with Bronny right now, or how GMs think Bronny and LeBron's relationship is going to play in the NBA, because they think if you get Bronny, then you're going to get LeBron. And it's similar in the sense where it's like they're a package deal. And Nike, being the shoe deal that he eventually signed with, obviously didn't make the same mistake that Adidas made. And once they spoke with the Nike representative, he allegedly didn't hesitate to give his brother the shoe contract. It was like, okay, here's your contract, Giannis. And then, okay, my brother gets one too. Yes, your brother's is right here. So it was like instantaneously, like it showed that they wanted to have Giannis on the Nike team, and they wanted him to have a signature shoe for Nike. So in terms of which big brand wanted him more, Nike obviously showed him that he wanted him more. And a quote from Giannis, he says, "It was my turn to speak, and I said that it's important for me for it to be a family thing. And when you take me, you take my family, my brother, my mom." And she was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." After that, we've been with Nike, and she's been by our side ever since. So it's a package deal. And it really speaks on how some of these athletes think when it comes to signing endorsements, because most of the time these athletes, they're mainly it makes sense for them to be worried about themselves, because they came to the NBA to make this much money, and they came to the NBA to sign these shoe deals so that it helps them make this much money. And most of the time, athletes will have a more selfish view and a much more selfish approach on the shoe deal, because it's their signature shoe and they want all the money they can possibly have for themselves. Giannis is thinking a little bit differently, and given the fact that he's an international player, a lot of people in all different parts of the world, they think differently. And his thinking is more so help my family than help me, which is, I don't think it might be something that big corporate brands can understand, because their main drive is to make money for themselves. And it's much more technical than it is ethical. And with Giannis, you sort of need to have, you sort of need to be ethically right, and you sort of need to think about others before thinking about yourself in order to stay on the same page as him. And Nike did that by showing that, okay, yeah, we'll sign your brother if you really want him on the team, and the Nike team. And this is obviously where the Bucks might end up messing up their opportunity with Giannis, because if they don't offer Thanasis a deal, then chances are they might not offer Giannis a deal, and any other team can go ahead and scoop him up, which really puts some of these teams in a really difficult spot, but not in that much of a difficult spot, because it's not like you have to offer Thanasis a lot of money. You just have to offer him money. And in turn, that money, because the amount of money on contracts that NBA players make is a lot to ask for just one person alone. So giving him a small share, maybe $1 million or $2 million, things like that, it allows him to transport the money back home to his family, which is ultimately what the brothers are doing, playing in the NBA, providing for their family. And that's basically all that I have to talk about for this first segment and with Giannis's shoe deal. So with that, we are out of time, and now we are going to go into the second segment where I talk about Kyrie Irving in a much more positive manner than what I thought I would talk about Kyrie as this season unfolded. So I will be right back after this short break.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown. Get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. Some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
And we are back with the second segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this second segment, we are going to be talking about Kyrie Irving. And you guys don't have to worry, any of you Kyrie fans out there, he didn't do anything controversial this time, which is actually what I'm going to be talking about in this segment. But before I begin, I'd like to remind everybody to please remember to use the link in the description or the link displayed below the ticker on every show segment to tip and to donate to get your comments recognized. The link is gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. And with that out of the way, we can dive right into this Kyrie situation. And this segment was sort of inspired by an interview that he held in a press conference where he was asked a question on the narratives that were floating about him. And Kyrie recently told reporters about how he felt about all of this negativity, and this was the exact quote. He said, quote, "I think if you look at some of the guys on our team, we've dealt with a lot of naysayers, a lot of critiques, and a lot of noise, just like other teams, but I think specifically with us, somehow I was called a chaos agent for a little bit, and there was the narrative that I'm a locker room cancer. All these things that ended up becoming just these run-a-show media pundits, and I didn't want to be the butt of anyone's joke. I don't mind being the butt of anyone's joke, but not at the expense or consequence of my teammates' success and our success as an organization. I've just taken a lot of hits, learned how to hit back, learn how to protect myself, learn how to protect my brothers and my sisters, and keep the main thing the main thing." This is what Kyrie told reporters earlier. So the whole circus thing going around with Kyrie, it's sort of like it's been a thing going on ever since he left LeBron James to go play for the Boston Celtics. This thought that Kyrie Irving is a, quote, locker room cancer, end quote, has been much more popular in the given years, ever since after LeBron. And, so before LeBron, when he was on Cleveland and he stayed on Cleveland, there was, zero controversy around Kyrie Irving. The only real controversy that I could really think of was when Kyrie said that the earth was flat, and he thought that the earth was flat. He wanted to stir something up with the media, and he sort of just said this. He doesn't really believe it. He just knew that the media would react a certain way and wanted to get some reactions. That's literally what he confirmed with later on in his life. And obviously, when you do this, it's why? Why do you even bother doing this? Why do you bother saying something that you know is untrue, but you know it's going to ruffle some feathers? And I really don't understand, the thought process behind that, what Kyrie wanted to do. But and this is sort of why he got that chaos agent nickname, because he said this for essentially no reason. He doesn't believe it, and he knows other people believe it, and he just said it to stir up some controversy, to cause some chaos, for lack of a better term. And that's sort of where a lot of people sort of adopt that name. And obviously, this is way more than there were way more incidents that caused people to speculate this about Kyrie that were going on, rather than just this one incident. And another incident that sort of stirred up was in Boston itself, where Kyrie Irving, he told everyone that he was planning on re-signing with the Boston Celtics. However, as the year sort of progressed, there was a lot more problems in the locker room around Kyrie Irving and the rest of the young stars. Now, the exact report is still a little bit unknown, but what was confirmed was that Kyrie Irving ended up calling LeBron mid-season and was talking about how he was apologizing for how he was behaving and the ultimate split in the Cavs roster. And obviously this was going to stir up some bubbles because Kyrie was talking to LeBron again, And then there were rumors circulating that Kyrie was going to play with LeBron once more, even though there was nothing indicating that before. And the main problem in the locker room with the Celtics and Kyrie was because he felt that he was supposed to be the number one option, yet here are Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown performing at a high level and somewhat attacking his position as being the best player on the team. And didn't really sit right with him, which ultimately caused him to seek a better option and play with Kevin Durant on the Brooklyn Nets. And Jesus, that's when the whole accusations of locker room started to become global. Because Stephen A. Smith was since the Brooklyn Nets were in New York at the time, they were the center of the news for Stephen A. Smith and what he would always talk about. So in the beginning, Kyrie, he didn't really play that many games because he wasn't healthy and because he didn't want to. He refused to participate in the bubble, which immediately rubbed Stephen A. the wrong way, because it was why are the Brooklyn Nets offering Kyrie to play for so much money if he's not going to play? And this might have been in spite, the talking might have been in spite because Kyrie chose to go with Brooklyn instead of New York. And given how Stephen A. is a New York Knicks fan, he might have felt cheated. But regardless of the reason, he was getting a lot of shade thrown at him by Stephen A. And even more shade thrown at him in the COVID year when Kyrie refused to take the vaccine. He believed in COVID-19, he just refused to take the vaccine for whatever reason, and this sort of prevented him from playing a lot of games, which thus ruffled the feathers of James Harden, causing James Harden to request a trade, and ultimately blowing up the entire roster entirely because of reasons. And Kyrie Irving requesting a trade to the Dallas Mavericks was the biggest reason as to why the Brooklyn Nets roster blew up and the team isn't where it is right now. But ever since he joined the Dallas Mavericks, there has not been one controversy around him other than the fact that he missed a few games because he was injured. Other than that, the Mavericks have been playing very well as a team, and they've been a major favorite to make it to the Western Conference Finals with Luka and Kyrie at the helm. And this is a complete 180 from the Kyrie that everyone thought they were going to get when he decided to join the Dallas Mavericks, because I'm not even going to lie, I thought that Kyrie was going to sit out a few more games than he normally did, and I genuinely thought that he was going to try to find any kind of excuse not to play a game, because he essentially, it felt like that's what he was doing on the Brooklyn Nets. And I understand he didn't want to take the vaccine, but if you believed in the if you believed in the virus and you believed that there was an airborne virus going around, didn't really make any sense to me at the time. And I just, from a Brooklyn Nets fan and the perspective of a Nets fan, I genuinely thought that he was trying to find any kind of excuse to avoid playing a lot of these games for whatever reason. And I didn't like it. It wasn't fun. And Kyrie was one of my least favorite athletes when he was on Brooklyn, strictly because he just wouldn't play. I loved him when he played, but when he just chose not to, I was really upset, because it's he has all of this talent, yet he refuses to display it and he refuses to use it for an NBA team. And I'm just why? It really doesn't make any sense. Luka Doncic also spoke on Kyrie Irving as a teammate, and he said, having Kyrie has been a blessing. I always say on the court, everybody knows what kind of player he is. Just off the court, he helps me a lot, not just me, but also the whole team. He knows how to win the championship. He's a very humble guy, great guy on the court and off the court. It's just been a blessing to be with him. This is what Luka said about Kyrie. And we haven't really heard of someone speak that confidently or that positively on Kyrie in a while, given the issues and the controversies that are brought up with him. Hold on just one second. But yes, that's sort of been the that's been the story around Kyrie Irving, and obviously, like, that's a little bit of the opposite of what we have to deal with now with the issue surrounding Kyrie, and there really is no more issue around Kyrie. Like, I thought that talking about Kyrie would have been something of importance. I would joke about it with with my friends when I'm like talking to them. I'm like, geez, there's nothing really exciting going on in the NBA apart from the playoffs. There isn't really like exciting news going on. Or even before the playoffs, there wasn't really like something exciting or something worth talking about. And as a joke, I'd throw in there, oh, I'm sure Kyrie Irving is going to stir up some kind of controversy eventually. And because that's been the common theme of the NBA regular season ever since he left the Cavs. And I'm not trying to disrespect him in any way. That's just been a common theme that I've noticed. And there's several common themes. There's the Lakers thinking they're going to get every single star in the book, then the Lakers being disappointed with the stars that they get, then the Lakers being overconfident again towards after All-Star break, and Kyrie Irving stirring controversy. Jesus, hiccups were attacking me for no reason right there. But yeah, those were the major constants that were going on in that were going on in the NBA for the recent years. And that's sort of all I wanted to talk about. I am getting hiccups. I am actually getting a lot of hiccups right now. So I think I'm going to stop this segment right now. And with that, we're going to go into the third segment where I talk about Kawhi Leonard's availability. This is so embarrassing happening live. But regardless, yeah, I'm going to talk about Kawhi Leonard's availability for the Clippers game and the Clippers playoff series and how integral of a piece Kawhi Leonard is for this team. So I will be right back after this short break. Hopefully the hiccups are gone as well.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this third segment, we are going to be talking about Kawhi Leonard and the possibility of him not playing in this next playoff series with the Dallas Mavericks or against the Dallas Mavericks. And actually, before I begin with that, there is some breaking news, ironically enough, about what Kyrie Irving had to say about not being a part of or not being named of 2024 Team USA's roster. So I'm going to go into a breaking news segment real quick. So the exact quote is, I grew up in a time too where we actually had to try out for USA Basketball, and we did meet up as a group and as peers, and there was a mutual respect that we earned from one another in trying out. I wish my brothers well, and I just didn't fit into this team. This is what Kyrie Irving had to say. And obviously, a lot of Kyrie fans were out defending Team USA's roster. Were out there sort of criticizing the choosing for Team USA's roster. A lot of the fans felt that choosing Kyrie instead of Devin Booker would have been a better choice. Choosing Kyrie instead of Halliburton would have also been a better choice. And a lot of fans who are rather nostalgic and inspired by Kyrie's game are just... they're really wondering why he wasn't selected for Team USA. And with him mentioning how I just didn't fit into this team, I honestly think it's because of the sort of tensions that has been caused with a few members of this team that are playing right now. So first, let's go with the obvious one, and that's Kevin Durant being on the roster. Now, the relationship between Kyrie and KD when they were on Brooklyn, it seemed as if they had a lot of tension. And when Kyrie requested the trade, Kevin Durant said that he had no idea that this trade was even coming from Kyrie. And this may or may not have rubbed Kevin Durant the wrong way, because this then forced him to request a trade to then go to the Phoenix Suns. So he might have felt a little bit bitter at the fact that Kyrie decided to request a trade away from the situation in Brooklyn, effectively leaving him there. And he might have taken that a little bit personally. We know how easy it is to hurt Kevin Durant's feelings. And really, it's a lot of people thought it was odd. And I'm not even going to lie to you, that might be part of the reason. Now, the other part of the reason is because Jason Tatum is also on Team USA's roster. And obviously, there is tension between Tatum and Kyrie Irving. Much more tension than there was when he was on Brooklyn, because he specifically said that he was going to re-sign with them, and then he went ahead and changed his mind. So that relationship might not work out either. And another one that might not even work out is his relationship with LeBron James. Don't forget, LeBron was the main reason why Kyrie Irving left the Cavs in the first place, because he was tired of being in LeBron James' shadow, and he wanted to be sort of the face of his own team. So playing with LeBron again, he might not even want to do that, and it might be going against everything he stood for and the reasoning as to why he left the Cavs in the first place. So he might not even want to play with him ever again. And I understand there's a lot of rumors that goes around in free agency and rumors that goes around with trades. It's how, Kyrie Irving wants to play with LeBron again. But I think those are just rumors. Maybe he doesn't really want to play with them again or try that again. But that's sort of my opinions on this quote and as to why Kyrie wasn't chosen for Team USA. It's similar to how Isaiah Thomas wasn't chosen for Team USA, and how it was he met the criteria to be selected, but he wasn't, simply because Jordan at the time, Jordan won't admit this, and it might not have been just Jordan, it might have been several other players on the team, but they didn't really want to play with Isaiah Thomas because of how dirty the bad boy Pistons were. I mean, Larry Bird had a little bit of issue with Isaiah Thomas. So did Magic Johnson. So did Scottie Pippen. Not to mention Michael Jordan. It was almost half the team of all these important players. And having Isaiah Thomas on the roster might have rubbed all of them the wrong way. And that's basically all I wanted to talk about with the breaking news. So let's go back on the possibility on Kawhi Leonard playing for the Clippers in this playoff series. So the most recent update on Kawhi Leonard was that he was experiencing some soreness in his knee. And obviously this is a big problem because he's had knee problems recently, and this could hinder him from even playing in the first round of the playoffs, which is something that is not what the Clippers want. And practically every single year that Kawhi is on the Clippers, they always beat the Dallas Mavericks. And if Kawhi Leonard's not on the team or not playing in the rotations, then it might be the boost that the Mavericks need to sort of make it past the Clippers finally and get over that hump. So In a media conference on Thursday, the Clippers general manager, Lawrence Frank, provided the most recent update on Kawhi's condition ahead of in the team's 2024 playoff first-round matchup. So Leonard's right knee soreness kept him out of the last 8 games in the regular season. It was formally described as a soreness. But Ty Lue suggested it was a small problem. That doesn't appear to be the case, however, when going into the playoffs. And it might be that they're sort of like trying to not let the news break about Kawhi Leonard's status, thus not giving the Mavericks hope in this playoff series. So Leonard's isn't fully recovered and before the first round of the playoffs. And after missing 3 weeks of play, according to the NBA source OHM, the Clippers general manager, Lawrence Frank, gave the most recent update on Kawhi's condition. Lawrence Frank said Kawhi has made progress, but there's still inflammation. Leonard still hasn't done any contact and is considered questionable for Game 1. And was asked if Kawhi received an injection. Frank won't go into detail on any treatment other than he's doing everything that he can. And obviously, before going into the first round of the playoffs, this is not the news that you want to hear as a Clippers fan. So the Clippers' first round matchup with the Mavericks is set to begin in a few days on Sunday at 1 o'clock at their home court, 1 o'clock Eastern time. And Kawhi Leonard's basketball mobility is still problematic, so it's unclear how he'll fare in Game 1. He will be treated with doubt by LA, but it looks like he could miss the first game of the series, which is not ideal if you are a Clippers fan. You need Kawhi Leonard on your roster. You desperately need him to perform, because without him, I genuinely don't think the Clippers have any kind of shot in taking down the Mavericks. They almost always take down the Mavericks behind Kawhi Leonard's ridiculous performances. So Kawhi's scoring effectively cancels out Luka Doncic's scoring most of the time in the series. And with the Clippers 9 times out of 10 having a better roster and a better bench than the Mavericks in the previous matchups that they've had against each other, that's sort of been the reason why the Clippers have been able to win against Luka Doncic in a playoff series and why they're always able to eliminate him in the first round. Now that they don't have Kawhi, that sort of eliminates that thought entirely, because now it's sort of spun on his head where it's like, okay, now there's not somebody to like match up Luka Doncic's production. And now on top of that, Luka and the roster actually look a lot better than the previous times that they've met up. So this is a really, really bad... This is shaping up to be a really bad matchup for the Clippers, when I thought previously the Clippers would have no problem in taking them down. So Kawhi's comeback is something that the Clippers are striving for, and Leonard will allegedly have an injection to alleviate the inflammation in his injured right knee. If there are no indications of it decreasing, so he can recover in time for Sunday's playoff game. With 4 players who might go down in history as Hall of Famers, James Harden, Paul George, Russell Westbrook, along with, Kawhi Leonard, and other Clippers and others on the Clippers, they've had one of the most talented lineups by far. But although George has been inconsistent over the last 2 years, Harden and Westbrook are way past their prime and way past their best playing days. Not to mention the fact that they are already relatively bad in the postseason. James Harden has had numerous postseasons where he's fallen short. Same with Russell Westbrook having numerous postseasons, especially recently in the years. They've both had playoff performances that really damage their legacy. And with Harden, it's as if like in every single important game, every single season, he just loses when the lights are brightest. And with Russell Westbrook recently, he has made a finals appearance before, unlike James Harden. Actually, no, not unlike James Harden. As the second option, or as the first option, he has made the finals before. But ever since then, he hasn't really found that success in the postseason. And he almost always gets eliminated from the first round recently than he then actually make a deep playoff run as he has in previous years. So it's really concerning for this Clippers team, especially considering how they've had Kawhi Leonard and Paul George for well over 3 years now, and they still can't really make any major impact in the postseason when they're both playing together. It's really a big waste of opportunity that these Clippers are displaying right now. And that's all I really needed to talk about in this third segment. That's sort of the update with Kawhi, and if he's not healthy for their playoff series, I think the Dallas Mavericks ultimately win. I think having Luka and Kyrie, it's very, very difficult to guard. And when you already don't have Kawhi Leonard to guard Luka Doncic, you're asking yourself you're asking too much of yourself. And Kyrie is already one of the most difficult guards to defend, given how versatile he is as a scorer and given how great he is as a player. Combine that with Luka Doncic, and that is just a recipe for disaster. So I think if Luka is not healthy in this series, I don't think they win. I genuinely do not think that they win. But if he is... If Kawhi is not healthy, I don't think that they have a shot. But if he is healthy, then I see this series still going to 7 games, because the series went to 7 games the last time they played, and now they've gotten better. And honestly, maybe it could be Mavericks in 6. Now, it's really tough to decide given how close the seedings are in this lineup, and given how good the matchups are for this lineup, but I genuinely think that if the Clippers are healthy, they have the best chances. But that's sort of all I wanted to talk about. So now I will be going into the special 4th segment where I talk about some NBA MVPs who I genuinely do not think deserved the award. And I've been teasing this since the beginning, so I will go ahead and go into that 4th segment right after this short break. Now, before I begin, I'll say this before, and I'll say it again at the beginning of the 4th segment. This is not in any way trying to discredit any of the players. This is just shedding light onto other players who I think had a better season than the player who won the MVP that season. So it's not as much as talking down on a player, but more so as talking good about another player who is really overlooked because he didn't win the MVP that year. So I will be right back after the short break.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC. To access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we are back to the special 4th segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this podcast, we are going to be talking about, in my opinion, MVPs who didn't really deserve to win the MVP over a certain player. Now, again, I mentioned this before in the last segment. This isn't me talking down on some of these players and their season. This is me just shedding light on some other players who I thought had a better season, but didn't get rewarded for the season that they've had because they didn't end up coming out with the MVP. So first on this list we're going to go really, really old, back in the day where I wasn't even alive, and we're going to go with Wes Unseld winning the MVP for Baltimore, the Wizards at the time, and him robbing the MVP over a player like Willis Reed. And the reason why Wes Unseld sort of won that award over someone like Willis Reed was because I believe this was his rookie season, and this was Wes Unseld's rookie season, and this was the first, once he arrived to the Bullets roster, because they were called the Baltimore Bullets at the time, they ended up becoming better. The second that this rookie showed up, they were better, and they ended up winning a lot more games than they previously would, even though the numbers around Willis Reed and Wes Unseld, like Willis Reed by far had much better numbers than Wes Unseld. Now, this was in a league before they were able to calculate steals and blocks, but based off the numbers that we have, Willis Reed averaged 21 points, 14 rebounds, and 2 assists compared to Wes Unseld's 13 points, 18 total rebounds, and 2 assists as well. Willis Reed shot better from the field than Wes Unseld at 52%, and also shot better from the line. And he also had a much higher win shares number at 14.7 than Wes Unseld's 10.8. So there's not really much stats that could be derived from this, but judging off of the stats alone, it's really like not difficult to tell that Willis Reed deserved the MVP over Wes Unseld. It was just like the story behind it was just that we've never seen a rookie play this well and cause immediate impact to the team as much as Wes Unseld did. And that's sort of been the reasoning as to why he won the MVP. So that's going to be the only old one, simply because like a lot of people might not be interested in that. So this is one that a lot of people might be interested in more. Allen Iverson winning the MVP over Shaq in 2001. Now this might ruffle some people's feathers because there's a lot of talk about Allen Iverson's 2001 season because he was this undersized guard who was carrying a team and was playing really well and was ridiculous at handling the ball and was really inspirational and influential to the NBA. And a lot of people hold his 2001 season with respect, when in reality, I think that the award should have been won by Shaq. And Shaq's advanced numbers, they destroy Allen Iverson's numbers, especially when you look at efficiency. And when you look at just overall production, Shaq averaged 28 points compared to Allen Iverson's 31, 12 rebounds compared to Iverson's 3, and 3 assists compared to Iverson's 4, along with 2 blocks, almost 3 blocks average compared to Iverson's 2 steals average. And the Sixers, they ended up winning a few more games than the Lakers because the Lakers ended up being second in their conference compared to the Sixers being first. But regardless, I think Shaq's numbers were just overall better than Allen Iverson's numbers, and overall Shaq's production was just that much better than Allen Iverson. And a lot of people, like, they really give Iverson that sort of credit because of the size, and a lot of people, they have a lot more respect from a player who can do all those things by himself, and they have much more respect for Iverson than they do for Shaq, because now it's sort of seen like Shaq was just this dominant player and he didn't really have that much skill on the basketball court. He was just dominant, and that doesn't really make any sense to me because that's just taking away all that Shaq has accomplished as a player, and I don't agree with that whatsoever. And I think that Shaq should have been recognized for his talents a little bit more than Iverson, but that's just me. And next on this list, we have Steve Nash winning the award in 2006 over LeBron and Kobe Bryant. Now, I have 2 players on this list because, 2 players that I think should have won this award, because really it comes down to LeBron and Kobe at this time in 2006, and it's genuinely a toss-up because both of LeBron and Kobe's stats are eerily similar, and Kobe Bryant did end up playing in the tougher conference, and how even though LeBron, he led the Cleveland Cavaliers to a much better situation, actually making it to the playoffs, compared to where Kobe didn't really lead them to a high enough seed to even be considered to be the MVP. And when you look at the numbers just off of the numbers alone, it's really, this 2006 MVP from Steve Nash is arguably one of the most controversial MVPs in recent history, because again, a lot of these the raw numbers alone, it would indicate that Steve Nash doesn't really deserve it, and it's really, he got the MVP due to the team success of the Phoenix Suns at the time. Now, Steve Nash, he averaged 18 points, 10 assists on 50, 40, 90 shooting for the season. Very impressive, But when you look at Kobe Bryant's season, this was the season when he averaged 35 points per game, 5 rebounds, and almost 5 assists, along with 1 steal. And when you look at the raw numbers, it's like, how did Kobe not win the MVP? But then you look at LeBron's numbers, he averaged 31 points per game, obviously significantly less than Kobe, but he averaged 7 rebounds, 2 more than Kobe, and 6 assists, which is also 2 more than Kobe. And the efficiency numbers are eerily similar as well. So do you go with Kobe, who was just the better scorer, or do you give the slight edge to LeBron because of his all-around style of play? And that's why I say it's sort of a toss-up, because LeBron played in a much easier conference, so that should also be taken into account when you think about Kobe, because Kobe had to play in a much tougher conference in the Western Conference. So it's really a toss-up, and it really doesn't matter between the two. If you pick Kobe, then I respect you for that. If you pick LeBron, I respect you for that as well. It's really difficult to tell. Now, this one might actually be the most controversial one. Derrick Rose winning the award over LeBron James. This one is most likely going to ruffle the most feathers because Derrick Rose is a huge fan favorite, especially in the Chicago area, and he was the youngest MVP ever in NBA history. So his MVP is really one of the ones that stands out. But reality is, the reason why Derrick Rose won this award was influenced by the fact that a lot of people were still pissed at LeBron for joining Miami. This was the year directly after LeBron made the decision, and therefore was a lot of hate coming from the media surrounding LeBron James with this move. But LeBron was still the best player and was still the most valuable player that anyone could ask for on any team. And when you look at the numbers, Rose averaged 25 points, 4 rebounds, and 7 assists. LeBron averaged 26 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists. They both averaged a steal, and LeBron's efficiency stats were also better than Derrick Rose's, averaging 51% from the field compared to Derrick Rose's 44% from the field. And LeBron James did have a better team than Derrick Rose, which is why Derrick Rose sort of gets the nod, and the Bulls were the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference at this time, where the Miami Heat were 2nd seed. But the revisionist history that Derrick Rose carried the Chicago Bulls this year, as I've said previously, is ludicrous. It is a ridiculous thought, and it didn't even happen. The Heat were 9.7 points better with LeBron James on the court compared to Derrick Rose and the Bulls, who were 2.6 points better with Rose off the court, or with Rose on the court, pardon me. And when you want to look at value, LeBron James definitely provided that kind of value for the Miami Heat, much more so than Derrick Rose did. And this last one might actually drive people a little bit in a different direction. So 2018, James Harden winning the award over LeBron James. Now, before I start, hear me out. I'm just going to say I am a huge LeBron fan. You guys know this. And this is obviously with a little bit of bias. I know this, and I know that this has some bias on it. So you don't really have to take it personally if you don't want to. With that being said, I'm going to also say that I think James Harden's brand of basketball is absolutely disgusting, and shouldn't even be watched. And it somewhat has ruined this league now. From looking at a stats perspective, he deserved to win the MVP that year in 2018, but it's how he got his stats. The style of play that he is driving with all of the flopping and the ref baiting is just so gross to me that I just cannot allow him to win the MVP. And it's like all of his flopping and his ref baiting and all of this trying to get a foul called type of basketball style is exactly why James Harden has been so productive for so many years. It's unimpressive to me, in my opinion, even if it is highly effective. I see both aspects, but in terms of just a pure basketball standpoint, I just don't agree with someone who has to get to the line to get his points and produce the way he does to win the MVP. And it's not like LeBron James played really bad this season either. And if you saw what LeBron James did in the postseason in 2018, then you would agree with me. And the short answer is, give me LeBron in 2018 over any basketball player in the NBA. That's really how the argument for me comes down, because LeBron in 2018 was a completely different animal. And that's basically my opinions on it, and that's all I really had to say for this segment, and therefore that's the end of the show. It's a little bit of a shorter segment than usual, but that's basically all that I've got for you. Be sure to tune in to the play-in games that are going to go down tonight, as well as the NBA playoffs that are going to be starting tomorrow as early as 1 o'clock. Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. As usual, please remember to use the link in the description or the link displayed below the ticker of every show segment to get your comments recognized. Once again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. Once again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. And that's basically it for the show. I am your host, Nelson. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the